My name is Amal Fathi. I'm a regulatory medical head for Sanofi Consumer Health for Africa, Turkey, Middle East. And I'm so happy today to be your moderator for this session, mainly for Reliance model, especially for post-approval changes. And the interesting thing here that we will hear from post-partner, either from pharmaceutical industry representative and other from our regulators across our countries. So with no further delay, let's start with our speaker by inviting her. She is Regional Director of Regulatory Affairs and Scientific Office of Ipsen. She is highly accomplished regulatory affairs and quality assurance professional with total 17 years of experience. Her academic qualification include Master of Science in Pharmaceutical Technology, and worth to mention that Dr. Fatima Abu Zanat was an award winner in GCC Regulatory Affairs Award in 2023 for her outstanding achievement and impact of the region as a woman of Middle East. So let's welcome Dr. Fatima to the stage.
Thank you very much, Dr. Amal, for the beautiful introduction. It's always a delight to be part of this dynamic and dedicated, I would say, industry group, whether on the manufacturer side or the health authorities. I will be taking you today through the industry perspective when it comes to post-approval changes, Reliance best practices. If I can have a moving mic, because I would like to move around. So I'd like to start first with some thought to maintain our mind why we are going through the session, which is be the positive impact on the lives of others. And guess what? We're serving the patients every day in everything that we're doing. So they're basically at the heart of what we are here for. And today happens to be a special day for one of the ultra-rare diseases, which is FOP, known as fibrodysplasia ossificans progressiva. Basically, what happens is that bones tend to form instead of tendons, ligaments. And then the patients eventually lose their lives because they're unable to breathe. There's no more space for the lungs to expand and contract. As we speak today, there is actually only one medicine that was approved back in August last year by US FDA. And more companies are looking into the rare disease. With that, I've got not much to disclose, so whatever I'll be presenting or discussing today, it represents my own point of view and not Ipsen, my current employer, and I have no financial or association disclosures to be further shared. Taking you through the outline of what we will be going through, so we'll be talking about the post-approval changes regulatory framework, and then zooming into the benefits of Reliance in post-approval changes, and then some real examples on best practices, and lastly but not least, some takeaway messages. So, what's the scope and landscape for the post-approval lifecycle managements? It basically everything that comes after the new drug application approval. And it can be categorized into three main groups, starting with CMC, which is related to the product specifications, manufacturing process, and controls. And the second type is related to the labeling, such as like new product information, new indication, or new dosage, or new route of administration. And the third one is related to the packaging change, because often we rebrand our logos or the designs of the packaging artwork, or we would like to introduce the QR code for the e-labeling, sterilization, aggregation, you name them. Now, the thing about the post-approval changes is that they're happening all the time. So they are non-stop. As soon as one gets approved, the other one is on the way. So it's quite dynamic, and the workload is quite high, be it at the manufacturer's level, the distributor, or even the health authority. To add a little bit to it in terms of challenges is that the regulatory framework for post-approval review is quite diverse across our region. So that means for each variation, depending on the region that you're serving, you will need to prepare the same dossier, accommodating the specificities of the different countries, let's say 30 times, 25 times, 40 times, depends on which countries you're serving. And then the same dossier will need to be reviewed by each and every health authority around the different countries. So what does it have in terms of impact for the patient's safety and access? Basically, the patient is waiting, on the other hand, waiting to have the product with the most updated specifications, maybe longer shelf life, so that there is a better supply for the product. Or sometimes, interruption in the supply can happen, because while the former package is unavailable from a manufacturing perspective, the new one is still under review. There is some flexibility around some countries, which we have heard today from Dr. Babikar and Dr. Al-Saidi, where based on a case-by-case basis, they do look into it and issue an importation permit. It's how about it gets systemized? And that takes us to the benefits. Why do we need to look into the Reliance when it comes to post-approval changes? I've clustered them into three main buckets, starting by the regulatory reliance framework. It's always about finding that right balance between the scientific-based approach of reviewing the change versus the safety, efficacy, and quality of the product to ensure that the patient, at the end of the day, is having access to the appropriate product with the appropriate specifications at the right time. There are several ways of doing it. It can be harmonization or it can be conversions. Yet I'm more into conversions, but I'll take you through that in a couple of minutes. The second basket is the resource optimization. So regulatory affairs folks, regardless in which seat they are sitting, they're always busy because things are always happening. So imagine if we can focus our resources into different aspects of the regulatory affairs. So for example, instead of preparing the same dossier 40 times to serve the 40 countries, you prepare it 1 time, 10 times, and then utilize the other time to focus more on bringing in new innovation into the countries. Taking the healthcare authority perspective, they're also overloaded because they have limited resources as well. So how about if we rely, let's say, on expert opinions for different specialties? So let's say we have expert opinion on shelf life in country A. In country B, we have expert opinion on the indications. In country C, we have expert opinion on manufacturing process. And then on one hand, we are developing our internal capabilities at the healthcare authority level, and at the same time, sparing the resources of others to work more on the new topics that are emerging, that are impacting the health economics of the countries. As you're aware, one example is the counterfeiting. It's quite increasing. So maybe we need to join forces in how to think about tackling counterfeiting. The other thing is the regulatory data exclusivity, something that's coming more and more in discussion. And sometimes it can be the decision-making in how to access the market. Similarly, we can start focusing more on pharmacoeconomic studies or clinical studies in a particular country. So it's just about diversifying our focus and focused working groups instead of doing the same thing across the entire wave of our region. And the third basket is the timely access for the patients. Because the more efficient we are and the more focused we are addressing the different public health topics, we are improving the patients' lives, making sure they have the appropriate access, and enhancing the overall health economic overview for that country. Because if the patient recovers well, then the burden on the country is less. So making it real, because it's always nice to talk about what we can do and why, but seeing that it's actually doable and not in other countries beyond our region, no, actually within our own region. So there are 2 countries that last year have formalized the Reliance when it comes to variation review, and that's Egypt and Turkey. And it definitely helped in fast-tracking the approval of the post-approval changes. The caveat for that is that the manufacturer will need to commit to provide the dossier unredacted, just the way it was submitted, approved in the country of reference or the country of origin, depending on what was the basis for the dossier registration. And then the health authority would look into that, make sure that it's quite comprehensive, and then decide, okay, it's approved based on the provided data. And that enables to fast-track things and ensure that whatever product is available at our country is no different than the one available at the country of origin. And we do have Dr. Eman today with us, who will be even further sharing with us what does it take, how did it happen, and what do they think about it from Egyptian Drug Authority perspective in the upcoming panel discussion. And that takes me to the takeaway messages. Simply, it's putting the patients at the center of what we are doing. And for that, we can do it by 4 different baskets. The first one, and that's the most important one, is the regulatory framework for Reliance. Convergence rather than harmonization. The reason for that is convergence takes into account the specificities of the health authority setup. So today, as we speak, some healthcare authorities, they have the registration department under the Ministry of Health. Some of them, they have it as a standalone Food and Drug Authority. And that means that the regulations behind it, the resources behind it, are quite different. So it would be unrealistic to imagine that the setup of registration department under Ministry of Health will be able to assess and address things the same way that a Food and Drug Authority assesses it. So when we take into consideration the convergence, health authority with different setups, different regulations can still have the same outcome, but they don't need to be identical. And that's a shorter win, because it can be managed at the level of that registration department. But whenever we're talking about restructuring, new regulations, it takes the minister approval and even sometimes the president approval, because it impacts the budget of the country. So it's more of a long-term goal, yet we need to start somewhere today. The second takeaway message is our commitment as manufacturer that we do timely inform our health authorities about the changes that are happening in unredacted form. As we have heard from the health authorities, sometimes they do receive unredacted dossier for the submitted and approved variation, the country of reference, where they're able to quickly review it and approve it. Yet sometimes it's not unredacted. In case if it's not unredacted because it's simply not applicable, that particular country, then highlighting that would facilitate their review process. Because it's also important that to look into how the health authority are looking at it from their perspective. It's a two-way thing. The third takeaway message is the resource optimization. In light of everything that's happening around us in terms of digitalization, counterfeiting, the fastest way, then we need to think differently and adopt the artificial intelligence in what we're doing. And keeping in our mind the example of Nokia. So back in the past, we used to say, I want a Nokia. Now, nobody knows what is a Nokia, at least from the new generation. They know an Apple, they know an Android. And the reason for that, they were doing great, by the way. It's just that they didn't adapt into the artificial intelligence, into the faster way of doing things, listening to the end user, so in our case, it's the patient, and therefore they're forgotten. They couldn't continue the race. So we are here together, and it's quite important to collate the efforts, because given that we're aligned on the broader objective, which is the patient serving, there are sure different ways of how to address it. And that takes me to the fourth and last takeaway message, which is the market implementation. When we're having the Reliance model, it provides us greater flexibility in terms of implementation, because basically within, let's say, 1 week, 1 month, from the availability of the updated PAC in the country of origin or the country of reference, it can be available for our countries as well. As we know, often the lead times for a new PAC differs from one manufacturing site to another, yet it's not shorter than 3, and sometimes it can extend to 9 months, because it depends on the setup that needs to happen at the manufacturing site. And then again, The patient is waiting. So with that, I would wrap it up and looking forward for the panel discussion.
So if you can join us here. And as mentioned, we already have the discussion between different regulators and some of our representatives from the industry. So let's welcome our panelists for today. We have Manager of Human Pharmaceutical Regulatory Affairs Administration at Egyptian Drug Authority, responsible for the marketing authorization and new registration and re-registration of human pharmaceutical product. Over the span of more 11 years, she gained different experience in registration, pharmacovigilance, and different other sections. She was leading the WH program for pre-qualification in Egyptian Drug Authority. So let's welcome Dr. Eman Hussein from EDA. Also, we can invite our Regulatory Affairs and Commercial Distribution Quality Assurance Director and Strategic Project Lead for Gulf and Emerging Market at Abbot, with 18 years of diverse experience from various leadership positions in regulatory affairs, quality assurance within health authority. So let's welcome Dr. Yousra Farid. And also, we plan to have our Rana Melkawi, our drug directorate director and regulatory consultant in Jordanian FDA. Dr. Rana comes with 16 years of experience in regulatory affairs within Jordanian FDA. She is former section head for biological drug. However, Dr. Rana unfortunately have a very bad cold during the traveling, so she is here. She is attending with us. She will receive all the questions related to Jordanian FDA during the session, and we will provide her email to share, and she will take notes and replying back to your questions. So thank you so much, Dr. Rana, for being here. I hope you get better soon. So to start this, let's start first with our audience, if there's any specific question related to Reliance before we start. Okay, just to prepare themselves, I can start with the first questions, mainly coming from everywhere. From your perspective as industry representative and from a regulator perspective, what do you think is the main challenge to implement the Reliance model in our countries in this zone? Yeah.
Hello everyone, greeting. It's my pleasure to attend GCC Summit for Regulatory Affairs and have the chance to join the panel discussion for Reliance for post-approval changes. First of all, I would like to thank organizer of the event, and then I will give an overview about the implementation of the Reliance in Egypt, inshallah. Reliance is one of the potential areas of our improvement. We have already guidelines version 3, which apply Reliance for under registration product and post-approval changes for life cycle management. We apply in the recent months around 10 marketing authorization license for under registration and for registration or for life cycle management. We apply 50 approvals in the last months. No one solution will fit our all authorities or companies for applying the Reliance. So we should, as an authority and the applicant or the companies, to work together to understand and adapt the different cases. Also, we face many challenges in applying the Reliance, such as there are no mutual recognition between Egyptian Drug Authority and stringent regulatory authorities. In addition to, before applying the Reliance, we didn't know the required document and the method of evaluation for this pathway or this approach. We, as a regulatory authority, participate in different activities with other stringent regulatory authorities and participation in trainings or workshops and with WHO for enhance our practice in Reliance. And have we different pathways for Reliance, complete Reliance or full Reliance, which an administrative process depend on the submitted document from the applicant and a rigid route for evaluation for Reliance, with a partial assessment in case the applicant didn't evaluate a certain part from the regulatory authority. Now, in Egypt, we have regulations for this approach, and saving the time, this approach facilitates the avoidance of duplicate evaluation from the authority and saving time for both the authority and the applicant, and building capabilities for the authority. That's only. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Eman, for the reply. Dr. Yousra.
Hello, everyone. So thank you for the commentary and thank you for the presentation, Fatima, as well. Talking about the challenges that we see in implementing Reliance. So we have seen that Reliance is a mindset. It is not like a kind of only a guideline or an approach. So talking about the scope of Reliance, we cover like innovation, we cover EMA and FDA approved, assessments. We cover as well new registration. But what we're looking for as well is to expand the scope to maximize the benefit out of Reliance. What we're talking about now is like stringent regulatory authority. The term itself has been changed by the WHO. It's now WLA. They're taking into consideration the countries which develop and work on maturity level 3 and 4 in order to assess to get into the scope. So this is one thing. And since we're looking also not only at life-saving, we're looking also at established that might be necessary for vital medications for the patients, it's also useful to look into this and to see where we can also again maximize the benefit out of Reliance, being it a concept and a mindset.
We understand that,
Yes.
that, and updated the Stringent Regulatory Authority approved from technical committee according to WHO criteria. And the last one updated in the November 2023 to cope the Stringent Regulatory Authority which applied Reliance and have the maturity level 3 or 4.
That's great. Egypt is taking a leading role here, but we're talking about also about the GCC and maybe other neighboring countries that are also part of this platform. So looking at life cycle management, thanks to the presentation of Fatima, so it complements if there is in Egypt, nor in, let's say, in Turkey, but also in other countries as well to maximize the benefit.
Not limited for Eman and of the FDA in Egypt, but all the stringent regulatory authority listed in our database. Plus, we add Singapore and South Korea in the last updated one.
That's great news. Thank you so much for sharing.
Welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for this answer. I hope it will be expanded to several processes, not only simple processes. I know the Reliance model to be implemented fully at Health Authority, it's very difficult. It will take some time to be implemented. But I think to start with a simple variation and some processes in our maintenance activity, I think it will help a lot by letting the regulator focus more on more important processes to be assessed. So thank you so much for your answers. And if I can share as a voice for Dr. Rana today, I can share the Jordanian statement related to the Reliance in Jordan. As a Reliance have been already applied within different Jordanian FDA guidelines, it's within the registration guidelines, site accreditation, and application of post-approved changes having EMA and FDA approval. And also GFDA is seeking for international recognition, which also will expand the Reliance practice for site accreditation specifically. We also know that due to the registration requirement in Jordanian FDA applies, we have been relied upon by neighboring countries for their products registration. So thank you so much, Dr. Rana, for your statement. And if there is any other question from the audience related to the Reliance, there's one question there.
Hello everyone, my name is Abla Hijazi. I'm from Hikma Pharmaceuticals. I would like to thank you all for your very informative discussion. My question is to Dr. Fatima. When you have suggested what takeaway messages should be regarding Reliance, do you think that we can talk to as we are all here, industry and authorities are gathering together to suggest that we have to first try to harmonize the requirements for the post-approval changes, because if you go through the post-approval changes guidelines in the region, you can find that some countries would request very simple documents for certain type of variation, while others may require a more complicated documents. So to start with, maybe we can consider one takeaway message is to try to harmonize the requirements for the same type of variation across, let's say, GCC countries or across MENA countries. Do you think that this can be one takeaway message for all the authorities to be able to think about maybe come next year with an improved or updated guidelines that get the variation closer, so the documents would be easier to submit and the reliance would be we can see that Reliance can depend on these documents. So if these are harmonized, so Reliance would be better practice in this case.
Thank you very much for your question. It's indeed one of the key milestones for regulatory alliance to harmonize the regulations. Yet the challenge with harmonizing the regulations is that it's not at the Department of Registration, which we are usually in daily contact with for our submissions and approvals. It's often at the level of the Minister of Health, and in some countries even it takes the President approval himself or herself, because it's law. So you're changing the law in the country, and that's more of a long-term project. So definitely it's something that we can work on as part of this annual event where we get together with the health authority. Yet in terms of quick win, it's more of what we can do with what we have today to achieve reliance, because that would be easier to achieve, as it won't require a lot of approvals beyond the capacity of the people that we are interacting with on a daily basis, and it will not come with extra burden in terms of economies. For the changing of the regulations, you need to get all the stakeholders together, so you're taking their time, etc. So definitely it's a valid point, yet it's more of a long-term project.
Thank you very much for the nice presentation. Really, I like it. And thank you for Dr. Yousra Farid and for Dr. Eman Hussein from EDA. Thank you as a moderator also, which is a good discussion as for Reliance, And actually I can say, like most of the country are, relying on each others, but nowadays it's the era of reliance, because nobody can work standalone, It's very important. Yeah, for sure the collaboration work is very important. My question is to Dr. EDA, Dr. Eman Hussein. What I noticed that they are leading now for the Reliance, and you have practically you register many products through Reliance. My question is, as you mentioned from what you are talking, giving us process of Reliance, which you did in EDA. You registered many products, like 40 something, I think, or products through Reliance. Some products through Reliance being registered already.
Okay.
Yeah. My question is, and you said that also there is no kind of agreement between the EMA and WHO for this kind of Reliance. My question is, do you have receiving from those applicants documents which is showing that those products being registered by EMA and WHO, or how you receive this kind of document which you rely on in order to register this kind of product, or you are assessing certain part of it, or receiving only few of that documents for assessment?
Okay, thank you for your question. First of all, I want to define our list for stringent regulatory authority approved from technical committee at EDE, which include EMA and FDA and other regulatory authorities. These countries we will rely depend on the criteria approved from the technical committee. Till now, we didn't have any mutual recognition between this stringent regulatory authority, but we are searching and communicate with regulatory authority and applicants also to know which document will be submitted to apply Reliance. For example, CPP for the product. This product will be registered and marketed in the reference country or the stringent regulatory authority which in the country approved by stringent regulatory authority listed in our list. Plus, the applicant will submit the sameness letter which define all information of the product and the sameness and difference of this product to be registered in Egypt. In addition to unredacted assessment report from the regulatory authority, if applicable, to submit it to EDA for taking this decision, and if not applicable, will be the product under to partial assessment to take this decision. That's only our process. And written in our guideline and have many products applied for Reliance for them. And we have different cases faced our regulatory authority in the assessment. Each product different than other products, and will work together with the applicant to know the difference and to know the availability of the data or documents should be submitted to us. So, okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you, Dr. Eman, for this.
You're welcome.
There is
Yes.
another question.
My name is Jean Sandou from Novartis. My question to Dr. Eman. First of all, congratulations really for this big step. It's the Reliance is the future, in my opinion.
If you can speak louder. because
Okay.
we-
My question to Dr. Eman. You have implemented the Reliance on the PAC. So can you please explain more right now the impact on the authority from authority perspective, just to give hints to the other authorities in the region? Thank you.
If I,
I can repeat, I can do it, yeah. Like how this really, you already experienced right now, the Reliance. So how this really did impact the authority
Okay.
on the daily level?
A benefit for both, for authority and applicant. For example, the product applied for Reliance decreased the time frame by 70% from the normal time frame for assessment or for evaluation from the side of regulatory authority. At the same time, the product will be apply this variation in the market with fast access. That's the impact already shown through the different through the recent months, and the time frame and the cost also, because Reliance will examine the product from the performing the studies, so saving time and saving cost for the applicant, and decrease the time frame of the evaluation by 17%, 70%, sorry.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Another question? So I have another question for.
Thank you. My question is Dr. Fatima. Thank you very much for a fantastic presentation. As you're aware, for complex pharmaceutical products, we usually share supply chains for all destinations around the world, and post-approval manufacturing changes, particularly the strategy for their implementation, usually relies on harmonized approvals across the world for that particular change. In that context, do you think Reliance is more relevant for accelerating approvals or harmonizing approval timelines across multiple countries or across multiple authorities?
Thank you for your question. I would say both. It's for fast-tracking the approvals as a quick win, and then on the long term to actually have unified requirements when you're filing the same variation, because that would even further enhance our efficiency at both levels, whether the manufacturer or the health authority. And especially basically as we are moving now, for example, into the e-labeling. So the idea of the e-labeling is to have instantly the updated information for the safety or indication reflected. So in order to benefit the most from the e-labeling, it's not only to have the e-label, but actually to have the most updated e-labeling in line with what is approved in the country of origin reference. So to achieve that, looking at how we are implementing it today, we are taking a baby step. So basically, okay, we're now introducing the QR code, we're having this hybrid model to eventually reach there. And then once the e-labeling is fully implemented, then the physical label would be removed. And that would enable, in terms of supply chain, to actually further linearize the supply of the product, because you can have literally one pack circulating across X number of countries. So adopting the same mindset, the same approach in how to tackle Reliance will definitely lead to the two, the fast approvals and the common requirements.
Doctor, sorry, I have one last question. My name is Nurhan. I work as Regulatory Affairs in Ferzini Skabi. My question is related to Jordan new guidelines for Reliance. I just want to know the timeline for making Reliance according to Jordan, and what will be the impact if we applied the Reliance in Jordan.
Thank you so much for the question. I will refer back to Dr. Rana. She will write the answer and she will return back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, related to what you are saying, Fatima, some health authorities, it's a common question from all audience. It's related to, did the health authority feel like that it decreased their authority if they relying on other stringed authority approvals or Reliance in their evaluation? From your perspective, from health authority perspective?
I did think that because the definition of Reliance didn't mean that the regulatory authority don't have the authority to take a decision. But the final decision is kept for the regulatory authority for the evaluation and taking the decision. So I didn't think that. And the final decision is only for the regulatory authority. The regulatory authority will register the product.
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Any other question? Thank you so much for the panelists, for the speaker. Thank you, Fatima. Thank you, Eman and Yousra. Thank you. Now we will have our coffee break. So there is another question. Sorry? Okay. Answer is ready, so we will reply back now.
So on behalf of Dr. Rana Malkawi, I'm going to read it. She asked me to do this. And there is no new guidelines for Reliance in Jordan. And Jordan already applies Reliance for files having EMA or FDA or both. Okay, I'll raise my voice upon request. So there is no new guidelines for Reliance in Jordan. Jordan applies Reliance for dossiers that have EMA approval or US FDA approval or both. Different timelines, 60 days or 90 days. Also Reliance for post-approval changes. It's not complete Reliance, it's waiver of some requirements, validation or other technical requirements, and there is no guidelines, specific guidelines for that. Thank you.
Yeah, we implemented.
Thank you on behalf
that.
of Dr. Rana.
Thank you so much. Thank you, guys. And now we will join the coffee break. And thank you so much for it.